Hey everyone, Will Leaf here. Today I'm going to be going over some of the game-breaking tips and tricks that our team found to help you beat Nightmare. These tips and tricks are not meant to abuse game mechanics or destroy the hard work that the devs put in, as well as this only applies to pre-alpha. It's more than likely that the devs will see people doing strategies like these and patch it or change it to make it harder, and honestly that would be great. While it's not a guarantee that you and your team will be able to beat Nightmare, using these tricks, it definitely makes it a lot easier. So I definitely hope you listen in and enjoy. Now, before we get started, I want to give a special thanks to some of the people that helped us figure this out, besides the people that did the official Nightmare run. Along the way, we did many different strategies with multiple people. We found a lot of people from the Back for Blood general Discord, and as well as a lot of tips and tricks from reading people talking in there. So thank you to everybody there. But I would like to thank Kai, Dorky, Harkin, Freckles, and Rauki. Everybody we took and learned a lot from everybody. Everybody's played the game with different people. So the community of pre-alpha was like a big reason why people were able to develop any strategies when it came to things like Nightmare. So thank you to all those people. Now, while all of these strategies make everything a lot easier, like I said, it doesn't guarantee that you're gonna get through it. More than anything, it takes teamwork and coordination. You could get through Nightmare based on teamwork and coordination skill alone. You don't need to do these tips. It just makes it easier. But regardless, teamwork and coordination is extremely helpful. There's some great suggestions. Nobody should be on the same ammo type. Everybody should be running different ammo types, and you should establish who is running each ammo type before the game even starts. You should say, you're samurai, you're on rifle. Tank, you're on sniper. Viper, you're on pistol. Willow, you're on shotgun. You should have that decided before you go in. That way, when you come across those guns, they get it first. Everybody else becomes second. I also suggest a good thing to have is one person running melee build. You don't have to do it, but it does bring a lot of relief off of ammo and aggro from zombies to have one person with a melee build. It's not necessary, like I said. I'll be coming out with a video on why I think having a melee person in your run is really helpful, so pay attention for that, as well as I'll be going into details of how exactly melee is effective and how I feel was the best way to run it. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. But teamwork and coordination is a big deal. Always saying when you're low, when you need something, constantly, any break you have in between hordes, in between zombies, after you clear an area, drop ammo out of your inventory. Make sure everybody is full on ammo that you don't need, and take any with you that you have excess of. Always carry extra ammo for people. Always make sure your caretakers are running the heals. Always just constant coordination. I don't think you should be trying Nightmare with a group of random people that aren't talking. But it is definitely a lot easier to do so with people that are coordinated. And lastly, there are a couple of cards in pre-alpha that I think are necessary before going into Nightmare. One thing to keep in mind is that in the easiest difficulty, currently you can get downed 2 times and revived by a teammate without having to use defibrillator before you're dead. In Nightmare, you get 0 chances to be down. As soon as you're down, you're dead. You need a defibrillator to be picking them up. So it's good to have at least 3 defibrillators and 1 toolkit on your team at all times for extra supply drops and things like that. But the defibs are very, very helpful. Another thing that I recommend is a card called Life Insurance. Life Insurance grants +1 extra life as long as you have spent 50 copper every safe room. You're always going to have 50 copper. If one person makes it in, you're going to have an excess 50 copper. So pretty much no matter what, I would run life insurance. There's no reason to not run it. Everybody on Nightmare mode should be running life insurance. And there was a lot of confusion in the community about what +1 extra life meant. What it means is that when you are downed in a hard difficulty, you don't die. And you don't need a defib to res them. You get one chance for your team to revive you like you're on an easier difficulty. So it just brings so much tension off in Nightmare. Somebody's bound to get downed. It helps so much. And that's one extra defibrillator that you don't have to worry about. You just more health pool for the team. It's extremely helpful to have life insurance on the team. Your defibs last a lot longer. It's probably one of the more OP cards. It makes Nightmare not feel like a Nightmare mode. Overheal is another great one, and the reason why it's so good is it pairs really well with Caretaker. So I'm going to go over Caretaker first. Caretaker is a card where whenever you heal somebody, you also get healed for 100% of that health. So that means if you heal somebody else, you're both low, and you're going to both get that heal. So it makes you into an ultimate support. Both people get healed. It's a larger health pool for everybody to work with. The reason why it works so good with Overheal is in the harder difficulties, you're gonna have a lot of trauma constantly. The trauma is basically makes it so you can't heal past a certain area on your health bar unless you have painkillers or Overheal. Overheal allows you to heal past that bar for a temporary health. So it just grants so much more health to work with. You want to have as many people running Overheal as possible. Anytime somebody's healed, they get extra health out of it. It just becomes so much more useful. Caretaker, you want to have at least 2 people on the team with Caretaker. Anytime somebody is hurt, give your heals to the Caretaker and have them heal you. It's much better to have 2 people with a larger health pool than it is to have 1 person with a larger health pool. So remember, it's a team-based game, coordination. Then another 2 that pair really well is Blood Donor and Martyr. I highly recommend running both of these. Blood Donor is more important. You want everybody on the team to be running Blood Donor, and anytime it's pulled, you want to play it. It can stack, I believe it grants 45 temporary health points whenever someone is downed. When it's stacked times 4, that basically means if someone is downed in the match, you get plus 180 health. That is a full starting health bar. So basically anytime someone's downed, which is bound to happen, everybody else on the team gets automatically a full health bar, and it makes it so much easier to overcome any type of horde. So I highly recommend running Blood Donor. I highly recommend playing it every time you see it and getting up to a 4 stack on it. The reason why Martyr pairs so well is Martyr works very similarly. Basically anytime somebody's down, everybody does 100% extra damage and has infinite ammo for 10 seconds. So that allows everybody to clear out any horde that downed that person much quicker and easier. I'm not currently aware if Martyr stacks or not. We didn't feel it was necessary to run more than 1 Martyr at a time. Even though we all had it in our decks, if one person played Martyr, the rest of us wouldn't bother. Already having infinite ammo and 100% extra damage is enough. And it's, so you don't really need more, but if it does stack, you're more than welcome to. The last card I want to go over is Resourceful. It allows your secondary weapon to have infinite ammo. Now, I was a melee build, I wasn't running Resourceful, but if you are one of the characters that spawned with a pistol, I actually recommend running it as your loadout card. It means that you're pulling no ammo from the starting ammo pool from everybody else. So if anything, if you're running Resourceful and you started with a pistol, other people can get guns first, and everybody's working with guns in range. So I highly recommend Resourceful, especially if you're one of the characters that start with a pistol. It just makes it so much easier, and you don't have, the team isn't as stressed to constantly be pulling pistol ammo, as well as I said earlier, you want 1 person designated to pistol ammo, and that is because you can get things like an Uzi, which will be your primary weapon, and it runs off pistol ammo. So if you have 1 person hogging all the pistol ammo for their Uzi, which runs through ammo very quickly. You don't want everybody else with pistols constantly asking for pistol ammo. So a lot of people run Resourceful as their loadout card. It is very, very nice. Just brings off a lot of tension from the team and the ammo pool. As for the pre-alpha, there was only one campaign playable. This is the campaign, of course, we're going to be talking about today. In the pre-alpha, it was called Act 1, and it had 4 different maps. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be calling them stages. So Act 1, Stage 1, you spawn in a hotel, and you have to break your way out of it, similarly to Act 1, Stage 1 of Left 4 Dead 2, which I think was a nice little reminiscent of it. The biggest thing to keep in mind about this stage is that this shop is available for the entire level. You can always come back to the shop. So at any point, if your team gets enough copper to go back for a defib or a toolkit, do so. There's no reason to not run any of those things, and to not keep going back when it is available. There's no reason to keep going back. I really mean that. Like, we went back so many times for heals, defibs, toolkits, nades. Like, there's no reason to not keep going back. As well as if in the shop, if you click on the refills tab, there is a heal. So you can get full health for 200 copper. There is absolutely no reason you should not be running back to the shop as much as possible. That being said, starting copper, you don't want to spend too much, or you don't have that much to spend. One person usually gets a toolkit, or everybody will get a bandage and a nade. The reason we picked bandage in the first level is because trauma is less necessary in the first one. You can go with painkillers and get extra trauma back that way. But most of the time we can come back for painkillers later. Frag is most important. It's the only way we've found to be able to kill snitches. So if you kill a snitch with a one-shot shotgun or whatever, no matter how much damage you do, the one shot is enough time for the snitch to call the horde. The only way to effectively kill a snitch that we are aware of is to use a frag grenade on it. Direct dead in center. It kills it fast enough to not alert the horde. So everybody runs frag grenades. In case we come across a lot of snitches, we can always give it up, switch it over. As well as if we feel like all the snitches are down, then we can use them against bruisers, ogres, anything really that we need quick explosion damage to get past. So quick thing, there's 2 ways you can play this. You can either drop the bridge as is and call the horde. However, the horde is very hard to overcome this early on in the game. A lot of people don't have guns, things like that. So we don't recommend doing it. This is where you want to use your toolkit. The best way to do this is to use the toolkit to drop the bridge. It drops it silently and doesn't call the horde. So we definitely recommend doing that. Spend the copper on the toolkit. Go back for a toolkit if you need to. If somebody gets down, go back for a defib. Don't really want to fight the horde here. It's not ideal. You're not going to get an ideal position for it. The best positioning that you can get for it is dropping the bridge and then moving back into the hotel room. You want 2 people at the window, 1 person straight back from the door, and another person right up against the door. The one up against the door is going to be when the horde pushes in. They're going to start filing through. You want that to be your melee person, possibly Holly with a bat, just continuously swiping any type of zombies that are going to push their way in. It's going to clear the horde a lot faster. You want a person 2 people at the window, specifically to be taking care of any specials coming out, because they're going to have first line of sight on the specials. But you definitely want 2 people out that window, because zombies can, if you call a horde there, come from behind. So you want that second person to deal with that. 1 person at the window, of course, to just deal with them before they even come into the door, ideally. So if you are going to drop the bridge and call the horde, then do it that way. Otherwise, please use a toolkit. It runs so much smoother. And this level especially, it's pretty easy to clear out and not have to deal with zombies on your way back. So we really take our time on this level, just clearing out as many zombies as we can while taking the least amount of damage possible. If special pushes out, we go back across the bridge. It's easier to deal with them on the other side. We can keep going back and back through the hotel till we get to the safe room. I believe one time we even had a bruiser kill all 3 of us, and the last one was running him around in the safe room to try and avoid damage, and he managed to kill the bruiser and bring us all back up with defibs and life insurance. So we definitely recommend not being afraid to go back, not being afraid to just take your time, clear out the horde. There's no reason to be pushing through this zone. The only area on this entire level that you want to think about pushing through is the truck area. We'll get to that in a second. Really take your time with this. Any alarm doors, don't trigger them. Make sure you keep an eye out for that. There's no reason to fight a horde on this level whatsoever. Now, quickly, we're going to talk about the true boss of this game. It's the ladder. Hopefully it's fixed after pre-alpha, but as it currently states, if you press E on the ladder and go down manually, you will fall and die, or at least take most of your health bar away. You can completely avoid it by jumping over or just walking onto the ladder, but clicking on it manually and going down, you will take severe damage. It's not worth it. And do remember that even after you get past the ladder, you can still go back up it. So there's no reason to be afraid to go back up it, fight bruisers below, back off back to the safe room for extra heals, defibs, things like that if you have the copper. And after the ladder, it's pretty smooth sailing, or at least it should be. You can technically completely clear out the horde from the truck area. There isn't really a necessity to. Most of the time we would just clear out the warehouse and move on. You shouldn't really be having to fight a horde at the truck area at all. You should be able to just clear out what's fighting you on the trucks, push past. Of course, take your time backing off when there's a bruiser or a wretch. And then once you get past that area, you're going to come to a door. If by some chance you happen to trigger the horde, just sprint, brute force through that door. Brute force straight to the safe room. It's better to have one person survive and not use a continue than it is to have everybody continuously try to save people as you try to push past that area and then end up with everybody dead and needing to use the continue. So you only, like, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, you only have one continue in Nightmare, so don't push it. So yeah, if a horde happens to be called, just sprint across the trailers and go push that past that door and get into the safe room. A lot of the times that door is alarmed. If you want and you have the copper, you can literally go all the way back to the starting safe room and get a toolkit to not trigger it. However, if you feel the need to, if you don't really need to do that, because once that door is opened, you can literally sprint to the safe room with no downs. The safe room is so close. You can save the copper and use it on something else next round. It's better to just break down the door and move on. Another thing we noticed is that zombies don't trigger the door alarm. So if there's zombies on the other side of alarm doors, you can actually shoot them and try to get them to aggro on you, and they will break down the door for you without needing to trigger the alarm. So we highly recommend doing that, saving the copper. You shouldn't have to break down alarm doors if you really don't want to. However, at the end of this level, we tried to do that, and the zombies just jump out the side window. They don't bother breaking down the door. They just try to get to you the other way. Better pathing, I guess. Okay, so Act 1, Stage 1 was pretty simple. Act 1, Stage 2 is pretty intense. So this is going to be the first time you face an ogre. We found kind of a game-breaking way to do it. Like I said, we really value the shop in the safe room because you can always come back, get more things. Usually you have enough copper at this point to get a defib, so all 4 of us buy a defib and we drop it in the corner of the safe room. By the way, this is where the strategy is going to get a little bit more intense. So all 4 of us have defibs dropped in the corner of in the safe room. If you're not using an ammo type, drop it on the floor, leave it there. If you have leftover copper, drop it on the floor, leave it there. You want one person to be holding as much of the copper as possible so they can continuously buy, but more importantly, you don't want that one person to die. So you want to leave all of the copper, all of the excess ammo on the floor so people can be constantly resupplying. Now, one thing you may be thinking is, why are you stocking up in the safe room? Once you drop down from the safe room, you can't get back up. So there's no reason to be stockpiling the safe room if you can't get back to it. Well, we kind of broke that. So When you first open the door, you're going to be dealing with a small horde. We dealt with that horde without dropping down. Once that horde is cleared, one person drops down. We generally had it be the melee person, which was me, just to make it a little bit easier and less ammo demanding on everybody else. Either somebody would give me their pistol, or if I happen to have a gun, I would be rocking that. It's best to have a gun just in case I came across a hawker that happened to stick me. I needed a way to trigger things without and kill the hawker before they allowed to stick me. I just needed a way to clear as much as I could, aggro as much as I could without putting myself in danger. So one person only from your team should drop down. Everybody else should stay up top. Of course, there's another tactic to dealing with this ogre, and that's just sprinting through the tunnel and hiding in the first room that the ogre can't get in. However, if you do that, that room on Nightmares usually has a full horde, including specials in there. So we tried it so many times, and we just ended up using too many continues to make it worthwhile. So this is the other way that we came up with, and it kind of breaks the game a little bit, because they knew that if you were able to get back to the safe room, you would be able to abuse the shop and abuse the safe room with the ogre. So they made it so you couldn't get back to the safe room. So instead, we had 3 people stay up in the safe room and only 1 person dropped. So that was me. I would push my way through, aggro as much of the horde as I possibly could, and bring it back to them. As soon as much of the level is as cleared as I can make it, without triggering the ogre, of course. Because once you trigger the ogre, anything that's around the ogre's spawn will come back with him. So you want to try to get rid of as much as possible before you even go up, before you even trigger the ogre. So we really took our time clearing as much of the level as we could. Once you hit that white van right at the edge of the drop-off, once you hit that white van, the ogre will be triggered, and he will start to spawn. So we particularly made sure that we pulled as much aggro without getting to the white van as possible. And then once all of the horde was cleared, as much of the horde as possible, everybody from the tunnel, everybody from around the ogre spawn, as soon as all of that was cleared and everybody was ready in position, we would trigger the ogre. Of course, I would trigger the ogre. So that one person you have down triggers the ogre. The ogre spawns and you run back towards the safe room. Of course, you can't get back up. However, there are 2 obstacles that you can kite the ogre around in that area. One of them is the canister, the shipping container. The ogre can't go over that, although one time he did actually stand on it, weirdly enough. He can't go over that, so it's a great way. It puts a barrier between you and him that makes him so he can't grab you. The other great blockade between you and the ogre is going to be the little windmill in the corner. This ogre will throw meatballs at you, so that is your best way to block them. At first, the shipping container was blocking the meatballs, but for some reason, after a while, the meatballs started clipping through the shipping container edges, so I stopped using that method. It's the windmill in the corner much better blocks the meatballs from hitting you, as it has a higher hitbox, so he can't really shoot it over you. So here you mostly just want your team that's in the safe room to slowly take him out. They have the best position. They can dodge his meatballs easily. They can really pull the aggro, and he can't really attack you. You just want to be laying into his sweet spot as much as you can with whatever gun you have, whether that's pistol, shotgun, whatever. Just use up as much of your ammo as you can, just laying into his weak spot. After a while, he won't go away. It's one time he did just straight up go away, but most of the time he'll go back because he has a script in him that after a certain amount of time he has to break down the fence of the tunnel. So he'll go and break down the fence of the tunnel, step into the tunnel. You have to pull aggro again. So I would follow him. Once the fence is broken down, pull aggro, he would come back, and then we would finish him off till he digs away. No, we never in a single time beat the ogre during this run. I don't think it's actually possible. Everybody in the Discord said they've never done it. They didn't know how to. It seems scripted that in Act 1 he would go away after a certain amount of damage. It's possible that in Act 2, whenever that comes out, you'll actually have a chance to beat him. But once he goes away, your team is pretty much free to roam and deal with the horde normally. So it completely eliminates the ogre. We take next to no damage from him, ideally. And we still have access to the shop, the safe room. They throw down any supplies, excess supplies, drop any of the excess ammo, all that, so that I can equip it and carry it if they don't have the space. They throw down any heals, defibs. The reason why we made sure that all 4 defibs were up there and there wasn't one with me, there's no point in having one with me if I'm gonna be down there alone and get downed. So it's best if they all have the defibs, and once the ogre is gone, they can jump down and defib me. So right before you enter the second underpass, a lot of people would just trigger the ogre and try to run past him. I don't know exactly how well that works. We never even tried it. We didn't see it as a valuable option when this is so much more lucrative. So there's a little room that you can defend from that the ogre can't grab you in. So once you step out of that room, the ogre spawns. Just go back into the room. He'll come to you. If you want, you can step out, pull aggro. Sometimes he has a hard time getting back to the room. But he can't actually reach in. There's a little doorway that's the extent of his reach. If everybody's sitting behind that archway, there's no way for him to grab you. He can't throw meatballs in the room, none of the above. So you're completely safe. You just shoot him down, whittle him down. He has a weak spot on his lower abdomen that's pretty easy to shoot, as well as on his shoulder. When he reaches in, it's pretty easy to hit those weak spots. So just defend this area from the ogre. It's pretty easy. He'll go after a certain amount of time or a certain amount of damage, he'll go away, dig back into the ground, and then it's really smooth sailing to the safe room. So Act 1, Stage 3, in my opinion, is the hardest level in Nightmare. Harder than Stage 4. And the reason being because you have to defend that gravel pit. As well as everything leading up to that gravel pit is pretty chock full of zombies. Like, there's a lot of specials, not a lot of pathways. This, again, is another shop that you can keep coming back to. So, as usual, we recommend, as often as possible, running all the way back to the shop, buying defibs, buying pain meds, buying toolkits, whatever you need. So, sometimes the ogre will spawn here. What we realize is it's a card that's pulled. If you pull the ogre card, don't leave the safe room. Just defend in the safe room. He'll go away after a certain amount of damage. He can't meatball you in the safe room, and he can't reach you at the back of the safe room. Pretty straightforward. There isn't really any tricks to handling the swamp. It's just a full skill and brute force teamwork. Really paying attention to your surroundings, slowly clearing out. Make sure you have frag grenades for any snitches. The bruisers are ferocious in the swamp. The bruisers will spawn right on top of you. We had somebody have a bruiser spawn directly on top of him, kill him in one shot, and then despawn. We couldn't find the bruiser anywhere, just showed up, killed him, and left. So the bruisers are pretty atrocious in the swamp. Their charge is insanely far. There's a lot of narrow pathways for them to go down and easily get you, a lot of corners that you can't see around, so the swamp is just really hard to deal with. We didn't find any optimal way to dealing with it. In fact, we died here a lot in earlier attempts at Nightmare, so I don't recommend... there's not really anything you can do to cheese the swamp at all. It's just going to be kind of a brute force skill, as well as when you come down to the train yard. You just have to take your time clearing out the train yard. Once you drop down that waterfall area, you won't be able to get back to the shop, so make sure you make all of your final purchases from the safe room when you finish clearing the swamp. Once you get to the waterfall, you won't be able to get back. Once you get up to the control room, this was actually the hardest part of the game in Nightmare that we found. We had the hardest time defending control room. We died here a lot. This was the ultimate thing that we needed to overcome. So once you get up to the control room, one person has to start the gravel, and the gravel will drop, allowing you to get on top of a wrecked train cart. So there's a couple of areas that you could defend. We talked about using the other ones. We tried some other ones. We didn't really like it. You could possibly start the gravel and move over to the top of the roofs on the opposite side and defend from the roofs. We didn't see it as very valuable, as it doesn't really funnel the zombies at all. It leaves you pretty open, and if you've ever had to defend from a horde on top of the trucks in stage 1, then you would know how hard it is to defend yourself on all sides from every zombie. So although it seems more open and a little bit easier to take care of each other, and we would be less cornered there, I don't recommend doing it. We didn't see it as a lucrative option. You could drop down below the control room. However, I think that you would be cornered there. If a bruiser came in, you would have to fight your way out. There's nowhere to really kite. So while the underside of the control room doesn't offer any kiting, the rooftops offer all the kiting, but it would be more difficult to defend. The best way we found it set up is one person to be on the ramp up to the control room. They're the ones that's going to start the gravel pit. 2 people on the stairs, because for some reason most of the zombie pathing brings them to the stairs and nowhere else. That's where you're going to get the strongest amount of zombies, as well as the most specials, as well as there is a flanking back window that the zombies spawn at and try to come in. So if you have, this is where I think it's best to have one melee build, because the melee can most effectively deal with that back window. It's as they're climbing, the zombies can't hit you, so it's a really good opportunity to get as much health out of the triumph card as possible. So melee works really well at this back window. The only time is when a zombie flanks. You have to try your best to kite them around the control room, jumping through the windows, closing the doors, things like that. The specials are very hard to deal with when they come on the flank. However, that is what the person at the control room is meant to do. They have a window straight to you, so they can turn around and help you deal with specials as much as possible, and preferably not distracting the people on the stairs, as they're dealing with the most of the horde. For some reason, that ramp up to the control room doesn't have a lot of zombies on it, so that person at control room is pretty freely able to turn around and help everybody else out. So that's why they're pretty centralized. They can turn around and help out the back window. They can just turn and help out at the stairs. So this was the best way that we found to deal with it. It really took a lot of brute forcing and skill before we had a good match with good RNG to get past this gravel pit. It wasn't very easy for us. But that is the best strategy that we came up with. If there's any other strategies people are aware of, I would love to hear it. Now, as for Act 1, Stage 4, I don't think we really came up with any particular strategy that was game-breaking here. Honestly, it's much easier to brute force this level than it is to skillfully hold off at gravel pit. So we kind of just ended up brute forcing it. We didn't want to push our luck, and we were running out of time to play the pre-alpha, so we didn't really want to push our luck with attempting to run this enough times to get to the last level and try it. So we used both continues on the one time that we did. So maybe if we spent more time, we could find an easier way to deal with the last level. But as far as we could tell, everything's pretty brute force. As soon as you break that propane tank, the bridge is still pretty clear. So you can pretty freely run across the bridge and up to the top of the yacht, and then across to the military men fairly fast. You don't really want to clear on the bridge at all. We almost didn't fight any zombies on the bridge or on the yacht. We would pretty much ignore every zombie we could leading up to the military guys arriving. Once the military guys get there, you have a minigun that's much more effective at beating off that horde. So even though you have a bunch of zombies following you, you can much more effectively clear them out with that minigun. Once you have the bombs, the longer you wait, the harder it is. More zombies start filling up the ship the longer you wait. So as soon as you have any break in the horde whatsoever, you need to immediately run through. You definitely want your melee person to go. The other person is completely optional. If you have a melee person, of course, or a shotgun person. Either one of those people. Preferably you have the melee person and the shotgun person go. That's really your best shot. So as soon as there's a break in a horde, you two run for it. The melee person, the shotgun person. If you go straight to the right on the yacht, you're able to jump down. You can jump down all 3 levels. You get to the bottom level, and then you just have to get down to the hull. It's pretty easy to drop down. You only want those 2 people to go. The other 2 people need to stay at the military cart and just keep pushing off the horde. Their sole job is to defend the military carts, as that's where you need to get to eventually anyways. The other 2 people that plant don't need to get out. You only need those 2 people to get out, ideally. However, if you brute force sprint your way through the horde, you can kind of avoid a lot of damage, as their pathing isn't good enough to get to you before you're able to get out. So even though in the nightmare mode that we beat, neither one of us got out, I got very close. It's pretty easy, especially when you have melee. You can quickly get some heals as you run along. The best way, honestly, is to brute force it. Just really push through with the 2 of you, clear as much as you can, but really just like the bridge, try to run before all the zombies. If you can get ahead of all the zombies, then you shouldn't have an issue, as well as you're pulling a lot of the aggro, so the other 2 people that are at the cars will be completely fine. The 2 at the cars are pretty scot-free to just go as they please. So as long as they defend for that time period, they have each other to help each other out. They have the minigun, they should be able to get out. They can survive and win. So that's really the best way that we found. The 2 people that plant don't need to get out of the yacht, and the other 2 people shouldn't go with them. The one time we tried to have more people go with, everybody died. So we don't recommend it, but again, like I said, maybe if we played this level more times before the pre-alpha was over, we could have came up with a better idea or a better strategy to dealing with this level. But as it stands, that was the best way that we found. Would love to hear some other ideas from you guys if you have any better ways to beat off the horde. Well, if it's the end of the video, so if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Would love to hear any ideas that other people had about dealing with the horde. Of course, a shout out to the homies that helped us develop a lot of these strategies, and of course thank you to the devs for allowing so many people in their pre-alpha. We had so much fun playing. I'll be coming out with a melee strategies tips and tricks guide to running melee, especially in Nightmare, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for playing, and I can't wait to play in June.